Coming up on Now See This. An accident in the Australian air sends two men tumbling down under.
It goes from nice and sedate to...
There's a global used car sale where the deals are hot, hot, hot. And when it comes to chasing storms,
Going to get it!
experience is no substitute for youthful enthusiasm.
Tape it! Come on! Taping, dude!
The laws of man, the laws of nature, and the laws of gravity are all stretched to the limit. Think you've seen it all? Now see this. Fire and smoke choke the skies the morning after a massive catastrophic earthquake rocks Izmit, Turkey, killing thousands and trapping even more. At daybreak, the devastation comes to light. Fire rages, homes are flattened. The largest rescue effort in Turkey's history begins. Emergency personnel from all over the globe have come to help, including some of the world's finest.
They're down in here right now. We have one up here.
A renowned search and rescue team from Fairfax, Virginia has rushed to the scene. They set up a command post and immediately hit the ground running. It's been 2 days since the quake, but many of these rubble heaps are still hiding living victims. Determining which ones to search is an overwhelming task for team leader Dan Bickham.
In every direction you look, there was a collapsed structure, and some of them look like just big rubble piles.
They press on, never knowing that they are working towards one rescue attempt that will test the limits of their skill, endurance, and emotions.
Once you get on the ground, we're ready to roll, regardless of how tired you are, and we're going to work as long as it takes to get live victims out.
They work day and night, pulling people out of hell on earth. By day 4, there are fewer lives to save. But just as they reach the point of exhaustion, an urgent call goes out. Dan radios a crew to the side of a collapsed home where a young boy is heard crying.
Okay, we have a confirmed with the listening device victim.
A relative had come over and said they thought they heard the noise underneath this slab.
A distraught man tells rescuers his 8-year-old nephew, Emi Yazgi, is trapped somewhere in the rubble. Dan and his team scour the surface trying to pinpoint the kid's exact location. But the rubble pile is too deep for anyone to look through. They're running out of time. Dan calls for their only hope, a tiny camera attached to a 20-foot pole that can peek and listen for potential survivors.
Okay, take that camera and rotate it around this way.
22-year vet Tommy Griffin is called on to operate the search cam and find the boy who's been trapped for 4 days.
Take it down, take it down, take it down.
What he sees takes his breath away.
I stuck a search cam in the hole and actually saw this 8-year-old boy laying in his bed. And the only thing holding this slab up was the posts on the bed.
Little Emi is sandwiched between 2 concrete slabs, but he's alive. Getting to him looks easy, but the picture Tommy's seeing tells him that his colleagues must move gingerly. A slight shift in the rubble could crush young Emi.
Once we did start our cutting operation, there was quite a bit of dust being generated. I could see that, he was inhaling this dust.
Tommy has seen it all, but this rescue has him fighting back tears. The helpless boy reminds him of his own son.
It kind of hit home a little bit. He had been in there for 4 days. The biggest thing I was concerned about was dehydration.
Emi hasn't had any food, water, or human contact for 4 days. There's no telling how much longer he'll hang on.
We were trying to make sure that he didn't get any more scared than he already was.
They dig a hole just wide enough for one of their smaller rescuers to crawl inside. Everyone holds their breath. And then, a moment of pure relief and joy. Little Emi is lifted up and out of harm's way.
It was like a human chain where we passed the boy out of the hole up to the waiting ambulance. And I think everybody got a chance to get their hands on him, and it was really kind of a rewarding experience.
But as rewarding as it is for them, it doesn't compare to the enormous joy and gratitude the boy's uncle feels.
It was a real nice feeling when we brought that little guy out and he wasn't hurt, and found out that a couple hours after they had gone to the hospital and been rehydrated and fed, he was out playing soccer with his cousins.
Emmy was one of the lucky ones. The quake, which measured 7.8 on the Richter scale, injured almost 30,000 and cost 6,000 their lives. But those numbers would have been higher if it weren't for the team from Fairfax who crossed borders and went beyond the call of duty.
It was pretty exhilarating, that particular mission, in particular because we had some saves, and I felt really good about it when we got home.
Most college guys have only one thing on their minds.
We gotta go!
But not these boys. They have their heads in the clouds.
Please!
We're begging.
Oh my God!
We're begging.
These University of Oklahoma meteorology students are serious storm chasers. And their adventures take them into some pretty dangerous situations.
Oh my God! Sisters! We got sisters!
Their leader is Reed Timmer, drawn to storm chasing by a movie, but now he's living the reality.
I saw Twister, and I realized just how exciting storm chasing could be, and I thought that it fit my lifestyle perfectly. So that's why I came to Oklahoma to study meteorology and chase tornadoes.
Reed and his friends couldn't have picked a better place to do it. Oklahoma is in the center of America's Tornado Alley, and every spring, it's Twister Central.
The rush is amazing, just having Mother Nature go medieval on you and just feeling the power of being right there next to a tornado.
And getting next to a tornado means being close enough to actually experience the wrath of nature in a way few live to tell about.
Careful, Aaron. Careful, slow down. Don't get too close.
We could feel the warm, moist air right next to it. And you could hear it. It sounded like a waterfall. Like you could actually hear the tree limbs snapping. You could smell the deciduous leaves that were torn.
They've chased the wicked weather all through Oklahoma and Texas, watching it tear up fields
We have a monster tornado!
and tear down homes.
That's a house. Oh my God! Oh no! That house is going.
But they don't do this just for thrills. They also report tornado movements for the National Weather Service. But some think that's not a very smart hobby.
What are you guys doing?
We're meteorology majors. That's what we
I don't
do.
care what you are. You're crazy. What you are.
Got ham radios. We radioed in. We track it so we can warn people in the future.
Yeah, I know that.
The boys hope to have a long career in the field, if they watch their step.
Live wire, Joel. Is that coming our way?
But then again, the odds have been in their favor since the start.
I could tell it was going to be a big day right at that moment. But I didn't think, of course, it'd produce an F5.
Chasing their first storm as freshman meteorology students, they watch one of the century's most powerful tornadoes unfold right before their very eyes.
It was a half-mile wide tornado at that time, but we didn't know exactly where it was.
Then, as if it knows they're tracking it, the monster appears, only a few hundred yards away.
We saw the tornado kind of heading in our general direction, and debris started raining down from the sky. Insulation, kitchen tiles, dust, tree limbs, and so obviously we realized we were in a little bit of danger. So we thought the best thing to do would be to abandon our vehicle and run underneath an overpass, which is also bad because the overpass acts as a wind tunnel.
Their youthful enthusiasm gets them close enough to be touched by this juggernaut of weather. But also, it almost gets them killed. Reed, holding onto the camera, gets lifted off his feet.
Oh my God. That was the scariest moment of my life.
He regains his footing and runs to the edge to get a better view.
I'm going to get it, Rick. Videotape me. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. Look at this. Right behind you.
Oh, geez.
Still not satisfied, they chase after the massive tornado on foot.
Tape it. Come on.
Tape it, dude. Look at this.
Listen to it.
Listen to it roar. Listen to it. You can hear it.
Kansas City tornado emergency. You're in that. I've already seen that. My flag. My flag. This is no drill. I'll give you a drill. Yes.
Reed and his friends are spared by the storm, but a nearby town is not so lucky. The savage tornado cut a swath through several Oklahoma communities, leveling whole neighborhoods.
We traveled east into the community of Moore. We saw just houses leveled all the way off their foundations. We saw a semi-truck that was thrown through a building. It was just terrible. I can't put it into words.
The tornado was classified as an F5, and with winds of 318 miles per hour, it was one of the most powerful storms ever recorded. But thanks to early warnings from these students and others like them, there was little loss of life.
Watch out, Aaron.
And as for these extreme meteorologists, one thing is clear. The only thing more twisted than the twisters is them. High above Queensland, Australia, a group of skydivers prepares to execute a dangerous stunt called a canopy rollover. Aerial cameraman Brett Higgins records the jumpers as they fall into a stack formation. Never suspecting he is about to capture two of his best friends fighting for their lives. One by one, the top jumper swoops down to the bottom of the stack, where the jumper above him literally sits on his inflated canopy. It's a precarious game of airborne leapfrog that demands flawless execution.
You got to have complete trust in the people you're jumping with, otherwise you wouldn't do it.
Adrenaline junkie Archie Jameson flies down to the bottom of the stack and gets in position. But when it's teammate Wayne McLaughlin's turn to drop in, something goes terribly wrong.
When he hit, his canopy hit Archie's brake lines and pretty much just collapsed his canopy.
The two canopies become intertwined, and Wayne and Archie plummet toward Earth.
As soon as I saw it, I knew it wasn't right.
Helpless to do anything but to watch, Brett swoops down after his falling friends.
I just spiraled down with them to try and keep up with them, but they have two canopies and they're just both diving away, so it was pretty hard to keep on top of it.
The ground is coming up fast, and if Wayne and Archie don't untangle themselves quickly, they will land with a bone-crushing impact. Wayne finally manages to free himself. He dives away, leaving Archie entangled in the two chutes, alone. Brett keeps his camera on Wayne as he deploys his reserve parachute. Meanwhile, Archie is at the mercy of the collapsed canopies that spin him in dizzying circles. But at last, he cuts himself loose. Archie joins Wayne as they parachute earthward, with just enough altitude left to land safely. It's a brush with death that two men will never forget. Archie Jameson says it all began with a malfunction of his parachute.
It was a case of my parachute basically turning around and heading off in the other direction.
For Wayne Higgins, the collision was a rude interruption of his joyride.
It goes from nice and sedate, cruising around, to...
As the two men fell, their experience from skydiving over 6,000 times each kicked in.
We're basically trained to react to this rather than have to think about it too much.
You've only got one thing on your mind. I've got to get out of here.
Once Wayne made sure no cords were wrapped around his neck or limbs, he pulled his parachute's release handles. Archie calmly waited to see if one of the chutes would reopen, but neither did. These guys spend their lives leaping out of planes, so in their world, it makes perfect sense to simply chalk up this terrifying mishap to experience.
It's not supposed to happen, but we're fully aware that it can happen.
For Archie, it afforded him an unforgettable thrill.
It was a good training exercise as well as being quite an adrenaline rush, if you like.
Southern California freeways have seen this kind of thing before.
It is a high-speed pursuit headed southbound on the 5.
But few pursuits have ever been as frustrating as this one will be. This agitated and irrational man is wanted for a hit-and-run accident. And from the way he's driving, his first hit may not be his last.
He just missed that K-rail.
The driver comes inches from splitting his car and himself right in half. Ground units back off, deciding to wait out the suspect. They have no idea what they're in for. An hour goes by before the driver finally exits the highway. Police don't want this interminable pursuit to go any further. When the driver finds himself on a dead-end road, officers see their chance.
Cruiser is moving in. Suspect trying to squeeze by. Oh, he clips his bumper.
A cruiser charges in just as the suspect completes his U-turn. The hit knocks out one of the cruiser's headlights. But the driver doesn't flinch. With a punch of the accelerator, the chase is back in full swing. Police have missed their only opportunity in more than an hour. The driver's next move is enough to drive the highway patrol crazy.
He may be getting back on the northbound 5 freeway, and that's what he's doing, northbound 5.
He's headed back the way he came. 80 minutes of open road stretched out before him. Police have little choice but to wait for another opening. With rush hour approaching, any mistakes they make now could cost innocent lives. Fortunately, it's the suspect who makes the mistake.
And that SUV cuts him off. He is onto the dirt and skidding out now, and he's back on the freeway, skidding out of control.
When an SUV tries pulling out of the suspect's way, the move forces him even deeper onto the shoulder. The suspect's tires hit loose dirt, and he can't recover. Police race in, determined to end the chase now.
Oh, and the California Highway Patrol right there, trying to bring this to an end.
It proves to be a tall order.
And he's going to pit him right here in the fast lane of the northbound 5 freeway, and that's exactly what, and he's still going. He's on the gas, look at that. Very dangerous right now. I'm trying to see if there's any other traffic on the freeway, and there's not right now. And it looks like the suspect is hooked on the bumper of the cruiser, being pushed down the freeway, and now he's going to spin him out on the far shoulder. This could come to an end.
Officers rush in, ready for a struggle with the driver.
He reaches in there, grabs the suspect. That was incredible.
But as they pull him from the car, they realize he's got no fight left in him. The combination of impacts ruined both his car and his escape plan. Watch the sequence again. It starts with a slam to the tailpipe that would knock most suspects out of commission. But this guy's unfazed.
He's not stopping.
The officer goes for the spin-out, a maneuver designed to kill the suspect's engine. But somehow the car stays alive, and again the suspect is on the move. Police frustration reaches its breaking point. When the second cruiser makes contact, he locks bumpers with the suspect, and he's not letting go. The suspect fights to correct the steering, but he doesn't have enough speed to pull away. Moments later, officers snap on the cuffs. Now that they're face to face with the suspect, they can see he seems to be high on amphetamines, explaining why he just wouldn't stop.
Suspect is now in custody.
Police don't get many chances to end a chase their way.
Oh, he clips his bumper.
And with this hopped-up hit-and-run suspect, missing a 2-second opportunity could have meant 2 more hours of pursuit. So when it came time to act, these patrolmen hit hard and hit fast. And made sure these hits weren't followed by any more run. In Viña del Mar, Chile, 32-year-old Waldo Navarrete is about to bungee jump from a cage suspended high above the beach. As he steps to the edge, Waldo anticipates the exhilarating rush of air, followed by the life-saving pull of the bungee cord. But when he finally takes the plunge, his worst fear becomes a terrifying reality. The bungee cord comes loose, and Waldo free falls 80 feet. He lands on the edge of the airbag, mere inches from solid ground. Incredibly, Waldo suffers only a broken collarbone. The fall could have been, probably should have been, far more devastating. But what went wrong in the first place? Bungee consultant Glenn Bruno analyzes the accident, beginning with how Waldo was attached to the bungee cord.
The two main attachment points are first and foremost the ankles. The other attachment point is usually made on a cable attached to the crane itself.
As Glenn watches the fall, the motion of the bungee cord is a dead giveaway of what happened.
In slow motion you can see there's no tension at all and the top of the cord's coming down. So there was no attachment made on the cage itself.
Attaching the cord securely was the responsibility of the bungee crew.
They started to attach it somewhere in the cage and they didn't complete it, and it just came out. It was definitely human error that caused this accident.
The crew's error sent Waldo Navarrete on a potentially deadly plummet.
At this height, they're going to be hitting about 45 miles per hour when they hit the bag. The airbag definitely helped him not break his neck or die.
Perhaps now the bungee attraction's owners will realize that they have their clients' lives literally hanging by a thread. And it's up to their crews to keep these people safe.
Every accident that I've investigated, the end result was human error. I've never seen an equipment failure.
Whether it's a pickup in Palmdale or a Chilean cop under siege, or a Seattle freeway fire, cars and flames are a combustible combination. Palmdale, California. The owner of this pickup truck has seen his precious vehicle vandalized several nights in a row. Tonight, he sets up a security camera to catch the vandal red-handed. Little does the truck owner know, his camera's about to record more than he bargained for. Once the vandal decides the coast is clear, he crouches down and lights a Molotov cocktail. He heaves the flaming bottle at the window, but it just bounces off. Now he's getting anxious. On his second try, the delinquent throws the bomb harder, but he's too close to impact and gets a face full of instant justice. Now, not only is the vandal caught on tape, he's caught on fire. While the camera's footage did lead to a conviction, it still didn't prevent the owner's truck from being damaged. The only real way to protect your vehicle is to be on the scene. Santiago, Chile. A peaceful protest turns violent by nightfall. As a police vehicle gets caught in traffic, it is pelted by protesters throwing rocks and bottles. One of the officers jumps out, just as a Molotov cocktail flies in. Then he does the unbelievable. Like a comet, the Molotov cocktail streaks through the open window of the cab. It misses the officer by mere inches, but the truck's upholstery threatens to catch fire. Thinking fast, the officer grabs the burning bottle before it erupts and hurls it right back at the protester. The officer suffers a burned and bloody hand, but he knows they're minor injuries compared to what could have been. After all, it doesn't always take a bomb to turn a vehicle into a flaming coffin. Seattle, Washington. It's rush hour, and the highway looks even more like a war zone than usual. That's because 5 minutes ago, Sean Smith's car was rear-ended by another motorist.
This woman, I just saw her coming, and it was just 1 second, bam.
Now the two adjacent cars are exploding on the freeway. For Sean and the woman who hit him, it all began as a minor fender bender. But once they saw flames underneath one of their hoods, they knew they were in trouble.
Flames are getting bigger and bigger, and I pretty much figured my car was toast.
But toast is an understatement. By the time the flames are extinguished, Sean's car is nothing but a burned-out shell. If he'd been anywhere near the explosion, the results could have been far more tragic.
I'm just thankful no one got hurt. And, you know, those are the things that can get replaced.
Whether it's an accident or on purpose. Surviving a car fire is all about one thing: reaction. Sea Paradise in Yokohama, Japan is a popular field trip for children. The marine life there just loves to play. And some of the marine life loves to play music? That's right, it's a sea life serenade, and young visitors can't get enough. The backup singers are beluga whales, who make a humming sound by vibrating their foreheads. But the stars are the walruses, Moko and Pico, who've actually learned to play horns. Trainers say their behaviors are natural. The whales use their singing to communicate with each other. And while the walruses aren't born buglers, when they were found breathing through hoses in their tanks, switching them to horns was easy. The real trick was getting them to perform together. Shy at first, these musical mammals eventually warmed up to each other, and to the crowds who came to see them. Now they're a tight-knit group. Unless, of course, Moko's agent talks him into that solo project.